Is Bitcoin on the brink of another move down? Are we going to rinse and repeat this little pattern we have going here? Holding resistance on the EMA 8 on the daily chart. Well, let's look at the evidence and find out. Our previous lows, all the way back in June, June 18th, low of 17.5 is in danger, right? That low wick, these lowest closes on the daily chart, we're very close. So why are we having this trouble? Well, if you don't know that answer, you're probably in, in trouble yourself. The DXY, our good old buddy and pal, the DXY US dollar index. Some positive news today. We'll look at that in just a moment. For the US dollar, for the US economy, continues to, uh, just go in absolute tear. Now we're on the verge of closing yet another daily candle at, at highs not seen in 20 plus years, right? Those are big things. That's not since the last, time that, there was a bull run. It's not since last week, not since last month or year. 20 years we're printing, higher and higher. It seems like pretty much any given day. So the DXY is doing this, looking quite overly bullish, I would say. Um, Crypto's going nowhere but sideways or down, right? You'll have these bounces, right? It moves up and down as the DXY, has these little breathers. Yeah, crypto can move up. Bitcoin can do its little, bounces. And that's kind of what you're seeing, right? You can go back and look at when the DXY is, strong. This is what Bitcoin's doing. When the DXY is having a breather, this is what Bitcoin's doing, right? So they work hand in hand, and hopefully you know that by now. But so let's go look at that news real quick. If you're not aware, right, today, ISM Manufacturing. So this is Forex Factory. I've talked about it before. It's free. Type it in. Go to the calendar and it's all your daily events, weekly events that relate to all the economies around the globe that greatly affect the DXY and also crypto, obviously, right? Because if the U.S. dollar has some good news, the DXY is going up and crypto is not. So 10 a.m. Eastern time, all these times are in Eastern time, right? The New York Stock Exchange times. ISM Manufacturing PMI, right, came out better than forecasted. And so these red folders are bigger events, right? The yellow ones are like, whatever. The red ones are what you want to really pay attention to. And if I could just draw your attention to tomorrow, Friday, the first Friday of the month, every month, the non-farm employment change is usually the biggest swinger of markets. So let's practice together here. If these numbers turn green tomorrow and say we get these are the jobs that are expected to, add to the U.S. economy. So last month, this was 500,000 new jobs. This month, although less, they're still expecting to add an additional almost 300,000 new jobs. So if this comes anywhere close to this, or even, God forbid, higher, the DXY will do what? Up. Crypto will do what? Probably down, or at best case sideways. And we have three red folders. I don't know if you can count, but I see three. Average the average hourly earnings, right? That comes out. The unemployment rate and non-farm employment change are the biggies in my book. So if the unemployment rate comes out at like 3.2%, that would be better for the economy, right? And the DXY would continue to move up. So they've even color coded these, so if you don't have to guess, was that good or bad, George? Green would be good for whatever currency you're looking at. Red is a little bit, bad. But you got to remember, like, what are you looking at? How far off was it? And is it a yellow folder, an orange folder, right? And you can even sometimes you can even go back and look at, kind of get a little leg up or a little hint at what might be happening. So we had a prediction of unemployment claims today at a little bit better than forecasted. They expected 250,000 unemployment claims. They actually had 232,000, better, right? So that would go hand in hand with what, kids? The unemployment rate. So, and the non-farm employment change. So if the prequel to the movie looks good, what do you think the big one, the actual movie is going to be? Okay, so the odds are, right, this might be pretty good market mover tomorrow, at least throw in some volatility, right? So pay attention to that if you're not already. enough of that. Let's get back to the charts. So we're moving down here on obviously on the short time frames, right? The daily chart is really the shortest you should focus on for the least amount of risk. The daily and weekly have the least amount of risk. If you can go to weekly and monthly, right, you're pretty much hands off. You're just riding the big moves. You don't really care about the day to day. Some people like to day trade. It's a little more risky. It's a lot more risky, right? Unless you have, you're profitable for a while, I would suggest using a small amount of money, and just practice on the daily or maybe the 4 hour chart. But if you get into the smaller stuff, you're just going to get chopped up more than not, because especially in all this day to day up and downs, right? Focus on the daily and the weekly and do yourself a favor until you can become profitable there. There's no need to move up, right? If you want to start, if you're out of shape, you don't start by doing wind sprints for eight hours a day, right? That's the 1 hour chart and the 5 minute chart, right? Those are very difficult to do. You want to start out by going slow on the weekly, right? Walk for a little bit, right? Or just at least, you catch my drift, right? Okay, so holding resistance on the EMA 8 on the daily, time and time again, that's what you do when you have a bearish down movement. So are we in verge of coming down? Well, yeah, we want to be watching for this low right here. If we take this out, there'll be some people, a lot of people will have stop losses in, I would say just under 19.5 there. So if we hit that, it doesn't mean people are dramatically selling, but they will often trigger in, computers around the world as stop losses. And that can often cause these kind of red waterfalls, I like to call them. So, or these big red waterfalls, right? So watch out for stop losses. There'll be a bunch there. And then if you're wondering, where's the next massive set? These lows here, right? You're probably going to have some around, just under 19K, and you're going to have a ton around this low here. So people that bought back in any of this area have definitely put a stop loss just under here, maybe 17.4, right? Depends on their risk tolerance. But if we get down into this area, I would absolutely expect something crazy to happen. Not just because Bitcoin's dead. It's because of so many people will have that bought back in this area will have stop loss orders in here, and that will trigger a kind of a market waterfall effect. So be careful, okay? If we get down in that area, I'm not saying we're going lower, but just throwing that out there. We seem to be moving down by the hour here at the moment, and that's because of that news today. If the news tomorrow comes out, I'm telling you, like the first Friday of the month is the biggest market mover usually on average, right? There's obviously events that come out here and there. Jerome Powell speaks, right? But as far as planned events coming out, the first Friday of the month is usually a swinger, especially in the foreign exchange market. So I used to do that a lot. You can still do that, but especially now, right? The U.S. dollar, you just close your eyes, throw a dart. Anything trading against the U.S. dollar, you're going to do pretty well if you're picking the dollar, right? So let's see what else we got. Anything for the four of you still watching? Let's take a look at the bigger picture real quick. The weekly, right? It looks real bad, right? It looks pretty rough. The lower Bollinger Bands all the way down, around the 14K level, which on the monthly is actual or support on the monthly, right? I can show you that real quick if you didn't catch any of my other videos. Right here, 14K. That's our highest monthly close before our last bull run. Right, so that's the logical place. We had a wick up 13.8 close, 13.8 wick, right? And then beyond that, you have several monthly candle closes, kind of right in that area between 11 to 12K, 14K. If we get down in there, right, dollar cost averaging starting to come back on the market, right? If you're waiting for a dollar figure, say I'm not buying Bitcoin again until it's 11.5, right? What happens if we're at 12K? And that's the actual hard bottom, right? You're going to wait for 11.5? It's going to go back up, and then it'll never come back down, right? So having a dollar figure in your head is generally not the way to go. Having an area in your mind is generally the way to go to start coming back in. So, just my 2 cents based on, being in the market for 5 years, that works out better than, having an exact amount in there, because you'll often be waiting for that. You'll either buy way too soon, or you have to wait forever to get that lumber, and you'll end up buying way in higher. Okay, so If we go down, right, if we break down, right, the monthly close, we're on the verge of closing. I know we just closed the monthly last night, right, yesterday. Our monthly close, that closed right, almost right on 20K to the T. Our close prior to that in June, our lowest monthly close since our, our bull run up was in June, right? And that was, so technically we closed a little bit higher, but we're talking about like fractions, right? So 19,985 versus 20,000, right? Just pretty minimal. So if we close this month, September historically, the past, I think, 5 or 6 Septembers have been red months. So I think most of you are aware of that. But in case you aren't, September usually is not great for crypto. Doesn't mean it has to repeat, but if the past 5 in a row are red, historically, it just doesn't tend to work out well betting against trends. So the trend is, down. Are we going to end it? So far we've started off red. We opened at right at 20K. So if are we gonna end up going down to 14K and wick? Are we going down to 12K? And are we going to have like a massive candle? Like look at May, right? We went all the way down here to 25K. We ended up closing above 30K. So maybe we do that. Maybe we end up going to 12, 13K or whatever, and then end up closing back at like 18K, right? That would be pretty good, because I would say that that's a good indication that, like the March, look at the perfect candle right there, right? You might think it's going lower, right? So if you were to say, I'm not buying Bitcoin until 3K, well, you're still waiting, right? Or either that or you bought back in, well higher than 3K. So goes in that kind of situation. So I feel like I ramble a lot, so I apologize if I do. Some of you just like me to go off on tangents. So let's look at one of my favorite indicators. Support and resistance is probably the most important. Moving averages are great, but beyond that, an indicator, if I had to pick one, the ADX and DI really does wonders. So on the weekly, right, focusing on the bigger picture, you can think of red as bears and green as bulls. And then the orange is the average directional index, the ADX. And that tells you the strength of the move, and the move being whoever's on top here. So the bears are clearly dominating over the bulls. And how you want to use the ADX, really on any time frame you can use it. But 25 is really, if it's under 25, it's like, indecision. I mean, there's a perfect example, right? Look at the ADX, how low it is, right? Under 25. It just flip-flops, right? To get a decisive move, you really want to get above 25 on whatever time scale you're looking at. And so are we above 25? Well, yeah, we're almost at 30, almost at 40, right? With super separation. So make no mistake, the bears are bigly in charge. And the biggest they've been in charge since, I mean, let's look here, right? When was the last time red was on top and orange was above 25? Riddle me stupid. It was the last bear market, right? That's not even a slang. I think I mixed two slangs. Riddle me stupid. I don't know what that's. All right, so just hopefully this is relaying. So I'm trying to get you into the mindset that a bull market, although it's hard to see when they start. We're not even dreaming of starting a bull market until the bulls are actually on top here on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and right, we need the ADX above 25. That's plain and simple, right? Otherwise, you're just going to flip-flop back and forth. So, you don't want to use one indicator to make your decisions, but this is a pretty good one to know, the bigger picture. So if you want to know, like, say, and, let's go to March 2023, right? Let's say that we've crossed and it's flip-flopped, right? Say the ADX is at, 30, and the bulls, the green, are on top. I would say prices are considerably higher, right? You missed the initial, but it would be great confirmation in our minds that the bull market is actually underway, and we can look forward to better things ahead. So looking at this on the weekly is a good snapshot, right? It's easy to see, right? Bears in charge very bigly. You have to use that terminology as well. So the daily, right, flip-flops back and forth a lot. I mean, as you can see, but even then, look, we're almost at 25 on the daily, right? With the who's in charge, right? The bears, right? Let's look at one more on the monthly, and let's see what that looks like. I haven't looked at that in a while, so let's look at it together. Uh-oh. The monthly has now crossed back in really June. Really, we got kind of our confirmation that the bears are here for the first time in, I don't know, just forever for Bitcoin. So that would tell me that we're got some longer moments ahead for the bear market. But the ADX is going down, so maybe it's losing steam, and maybe it will just fizzle out here going into, early next year, spring, summer, right? Maybe we get that move up, the ADX flips around, and we're all happy as shit again. All right, let's go back. One more thing. I wanted to show the Gaussian channel on a couple different time frames for those of you that are sticking around. I don't show this. We don't look at it that often, but let's look at where it's at. Okay, so the Gaussian channel on the monthly. What do we have? What do we have for him, John? Well, we're in the monthly Gaussian channel, which historically, there's our March, even our pandemic, we wicked down to the median Gaussian channel, which is thicker for a reason. That's really where the bulls kind of last line of defense, so to speak. And that number right now is right around 15K. So keep that in mind, right? If we get down in that area, just throwing that out there. The monthly, we don't really look at that often. Let me look real quick. I'm doing this on the fly because I just thought of it. Let's look at the BLX and see if Bitcoin's ever been, lower than that on the BLX going back in history. If I actually click that button, I have to click it. Okay, let's go look. Oh, look at here. We've dipped our toe in right there at the bear market. Didn't go below the median. I got to get rid of the Bollinger Bands. It's throwing me off. Hang on. Bear with me. Everyone clicks off now. Now I just talked to myself. All right. Damn. Struggles on the live. All right. So looking at the monthly Gaussian channel, it looks like we've never been below it. Man, what a weird thing to it. We got to take it off log scale. There we go. Jesus, that's better. But that puts it into representation of how crazy that bull run got. So now we're back in on the monthly. Let's go look at the weekly and get back to things that we know what we're talking about. Let's look at the weekly, right? We turned red on the weekly back in June, right? That's kind of when on the monthly we flipped on the ADX and the I, if you remember, right? So we're well down here, right? This is bear territory, but these are usually the best times to be buying. Usually doesn't last a whole long time under here, right? Last bear market, right? There we are, but we've never been, headed to recession either. So we'll see how this goes, right? We're in uncharted territory. The daily, some bad news, more bad news bears. For the BLX, hasn't updated, but let's go back to Bitcoin. There we go. Let's look at Bitcoin on the daily. Yikes, Scoob. Zoinks. Is that what he said? Probably mix the cartoons up. So we've hit our head on the daily Gaussian channel back about 2 weeks ago, August 14th, August 15th, right, holding resistance there, and now we've actually turned back red on the Gaussian channel, under it, right, holding resistance on the 8. So I would say we're going nowhere fast, at least in the direction of up. We might go down fast if we take out that low. Remember these. If we close under here, right, close under that one, or if we even wick underneath our low here, it could pick up speed. We could be looking at something like this. But man, don't piss away your opportunity. If we get down to 14K, you need to think about accumulating, right? Don't have a dollar figure in your head. When we get down there, if we get down there, right, the low could still be in, right? Until we take out the low, nobody knows. But all the signs are starting to stack up more and more for the bears, aren't they? So that's a TA analyst's job, is to relay, interpret information, and not to predict what's going to come, but stack up as much evidence for the bulls, or stack up evidence for the bears. The bears just have more evidence of strength at this point. So that's the way you got to go, right? Don't be too biased on one thing just because, just because it's September doesn't mean we have to, get wrecked. Just because, hopefully that makes sense a little bit, but we are heading down. So it seems like September might hold, at least for the first day of it, hold true to its name. Past 5 or 6 Septembers have been not so great, but we'll see. We have the Gaussian channel flipping. Sorry to ramble. I want to make sure I covered everything. We don't talk about a lot. Oh, one other thing. Let's take off the Gaussian. If you're still here, you deserve it. Let's see. The volume profile. If you haven't added that to your chart, I mean, that's another handy one to you just use in your toolkit, right? Let's talk about that for a second. The volume profile, where it's kind of where all the buys and sells happen, right? What do you see here? Right, a lot of major volume right in this area around the around the 20K mark, and now we're kind of breaking down outside of it. Doesn't mean you can't come back, but I mean here what's this orange line, Chase? Tell me. Matches your shirt. It's a gold shirt. It's not orange. Shut up. That's the highest volume that you're looking at on a given chart. So on the daily, the highest volume doesn't mean buys or sells. It's combined. It was right there, right? So you can sometimes use that, and you can kind of see how. Look at the prices right here. They followed that shadow, right, of the volume, right? And we kind of just went reversed right there because there's no more, interactions there. So sometimes you can use this for kind of support resistance as well. So, add that to your pipe and smoke it too. Um, what else? Anything else? Let's do quote of the day for the one of you that like it. Person a person who won't read has no advantage over one who can't. Great quote, and this doesn't relate to just reading, right? I mean, this is actually one of the quotes I read, way back when that actually got me to start reading because that pissed me off about myself, right? I'm like, damn. So this also relates to like, going out and walking or breathing or feeling good or doing anything. There's if you don't go out and exercise, you're no different than someone that's 800 pounds that can't move or paraplegic, right? So just if you're struggling with your life, just perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. So that is that, and let's get to happier things. Our Bentley Continental GTC and two-tone. On it, only cars that should be two-tone are rolling houses. Something costs as much as a house, you can two-tone. You can't two-tone your Camaro or your whatever. But two tones on Rolls Royce and Bentleys, I think looks pretty good. This one's a little out there, but I think someone just customized this a little too overboard with the orange pinstriping or whatever. But I like the yeah, that. All right, I'm gonna go get in this. Matches my shirt, so I deserve it. uh, all right, I'll see you on the next one. Hopefully this helps somebody out there somehow, some way.